Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /MaliciousCompliance, where people follow exact orders to spite someone. And in today's episode, since the holidays are coming up quick, the stories are all about people getting back at overly entitled Karens around this joyous time. And seriously, the stories are so satisfying today. So grab a drink, sit back, relax, and as always, try not to shake your heads too hard at some of these posts. Let's dive in, guys. When I was 10 years old, I'm now 20, my parents would always forget to do their Elf on the Shelf duties. For those who don't know, Elf on the Shelf is a little elf doll that's supposed to watch over children to report back to Santa if they're good or bad. You buy the elf and you set it up around your house. Well, the elf is supposed to be hiding or doing something wacky every time the kids wake up for them to find. Me, I had known that Santa wasn't real, spoiler, since I was about 8 years old, and I'd noticed that my parents suddenly stopped moving the elf in the mornings. It was obviously making my 3 younger siblings sad that the elf didn't like them enough to report back to Santa. So I brought it up to my mother, and she told me that I should do the moving around if it bothered me so much, so I did. The first night was simple. I just hid the elf in the tree. The kids were so excited that the elf was on the move again. The second night, I got a bit more advantageous. I set up my other siblings' toys around the living room with them to make it pretty hard to get through without moving them around. The third night was when I struck. I covered the entire kitchen in flour. Countertops, the floor, the kitchen table. I made it look like the elf was having a snowball fight around the kitchen with my brother's army men dolls. That morning, my mother walks into the kitchen and she nearly had a heart attack. She was so shocked. But she couldn't be mad as it was the elf on the shelf, not me. I knew that she would have to clean it up while we were at school, and needless to say, I got taken off of elf duty. Let kids be kids, man. Yeah, I just love how OP checkmated their parents with a bag of flour. And that was honestly a really impressive malicious compliance. Like, that flour fight was genius. And one can only imagine the look on mom's face when walking into the kitchen that morning. And just coming from the parents' point of view, like, I don't know if I'd be impressed that my kid did that or upset. With that said, OP is an awesome older sibling who could have easily not cared about the silly little elf, but they chose to keep the magic alive for their siblings, and that, guys, deserves many, many pats on the back. Well done, OP. So in the military, we sometimes have mandatory fun. Basically, we really don't have a choice. We have to go out and have fun with leadership. It's supposed to be a morale-boosting event, but when it's forced, it really isn't. Some of these events were barbecues, intra-squadron challenges, 5K formation fun runs, and going away lunches. Of course, during the holidays, the mandatory fun was kicked into overdrive with holiday potlucks, Secret Santa gift exchanges, and crazy decoration contests. This happened the summer of 2006. I was assigned to the Maintenance Control Center office, and the office had 5 people in it. 1 crusty E6, 2 career floating E5s, and 2 brand new E4s. I was one of them. Now, the thought of actually getting involved with mandatory fun events made the E5s and the E6 cringe. They were set in their ways and absolutely hated squadron activities. Unfortunately for those guys, the MCC was located in the main squadrons building, where all the squadron's leadership sat and where all the other squadron support offices were. Counting the commander's office and the commander's support staff office, there was a total of 15 different offices in that building. So if you didn't get involved in mandatory fun, it was noticed. Mid-November 2006, the squadron's party planning committee had a great morale-boosting idea: a door decorating contest. Each office in the squadron's main building will, and the keyword is will, decorate their door with a Christmas or holiday theme. The doors had to be completely decorated by the end of second week of December. The committee would then judge the doors on the beginning of the third week in December and announce the winners by the end of the week. The winners get a free lunch and bragging rights. So with that all said, as you walk through the building in the beginning of December, All the offices were going nuts with their door decorations. One even had a Halloween Town Christmas theme that looked really cool. Another had a projector pointing to the door showing snowflakes falling in great detail, and one had gift wrapped the entire door. All of the offices, including the commander, had their doors decorated, except ours. When I asked the E6, aren't we gonna do something, his answer was, F no, I ain't doing crap. Whereas the E5s were, we're busy, we don't have time. It was the Friday of the first week of December, and we still haven't decorated our door. That's when the section chief, an E7, came in, and he asked the E6, hey, aren't you guys gonna decorate your door? The E6 answer was, no, we're busy training. Well, the section chief didn't like that answer, and he told the whole maintenance control center to do something creative by the end of today, or else. He then left, and that's where I stepped up and I used my young military experience. I remembered that during our last exercise, there were some signs that were posted around base that informed people of a simulated situation. It was basically pieces of paper that just said simulated block door or simulated road hazard. With that knowledge in hand, I print out 4 sheets of paper. I taped one to the top, 2 in the middle, and 1 on the bottom of the door. And that was our official door decorations. The top piece of paper said simulated lights. The 2 middle pieces of paper said simulated ornaments and simulated wreath. And the bottom piece said simulated soft snow. When the section chief saw our door, he came in and said, all right, who's the smartass here? Long story short, we didn't end up winning the door contest. But someone from the wing PA office was in our building one day. They saw the door, they took a picture and published it on the base paper with the caption, Holiday Spirit in Full Force, which the E6 absolutely hated because of all the attention we got from it. Listen, military compliance is one of my favorite types of compliance, guys, because if there's one group of people who can tell you to basically pound sand and get away with it because they obeyed protocol, it's the military types. And I only wish OP sent a picture of their door amongst the other doors because that would have been awesome to see. I mean, it's only 4 pieces of paper stuck to a door, but still, what a brilliant compliance that was, and that's such a good idea for those who want to decorate, but not really. And I'm sure it'd get a few laughs for those who did it. So this happened last year on Christmas Eve. This little mega holiday pop-up shop always opens up in our small town just for the month of December. It's part store, part full-blown winter carnival. Naturally, it was packed wall to wall with frantic last-minute shoppers and people who wanted to take pictures of light displays with their families. I had stopped in to grab a few stocking stuffers and a platter of gingerbread cookies for my grandmother. My total came out to $32 and some change. I hand the cashier, a teenager wearing reindeer antlers, a crisp $50 bill. When I got into my car, I realized that he had given me about $20 too much in change. Being the decent human being I try to be, I turned right around and I head back inside. The line was enormous, so I approached the register politely. The cashier kid doesn't even look at me, and with a snarky little smirk, he snaps, "The line starts way back there, dude. Don't try to cut." I try to explain to him, but at this point, a few others were also loudly suggesting I go to the back. So I sigh, and I step into the long, slow-moving line, and I waited nearly 15 minutes. Finally, when it was my turn, I said, "Hey, I think you accidentally gave me too much change. I wanted to." He then cut me off instantly, and he raises his voice and says, "I gave you the right change. I know how to do my job, so move along." And seriously, every attempt I made to speak, he talked over, and he said, "Sir, just take your change and go. I'm not fixing anything. Next." At that point, cue the malicious compliance. I thought to myself, I tried to be nice, Christmas spirit and all of that. But if the kid wanted to be an a-hole to me like that, I'm keeping the money. So I just shrug and I say, "Alright then, Merry Christmas, your drawer is gonna be $20 short." And here's the aftermath. On Christmas Day, I bumped into Edgar, the store's owner, at the community pancake breakfast. I had gotten to know Edgar over the years of running the pop-up Christmas event, so I told him exactly what happened. He rubbed his temples and he groaned and said, "Oh my goodness, that explains it." His drawer was over $200 short that night. He tried to blame the system glitching. Turns out, the kid had messed up several customers' change, and my story was the missing puzzle piece he needed, as I was the only one who came back. He thanked me for letting him know, and he thanked me for, quote, trying to do the right thing. You know what? Good on OP for being an honest person, because the others, well, they just got away with some free money, didn't they? Like $10 to $20 short, I can see. Stuff happens, but $200 short. Like the kid was either super flustered, getting bombarded with customers on Christmas Eve, or he really didn't care and just wanted to get his shift over to go home. Maybe a mix of both is what I'm thinking. Guys, let me know your thoughts on this post. So about 20 years ago, my wife and I had just gotten married, and we rented a condo where all the windows and a sliding door faced the parking area. My wife, to celebrate our first Christmas as a married couple, went all out. She put a white rope light on the railing, lights around the patio door, nice little Christmas decorations out. It was a nice gesture. That night, we went out to dinner, and when we came home, we find a letter under our door. The letter read, "All holiday lights and decoration must be removed immediately from the exterior portion of the condo. Christmas and other religious lighting and decoration is against HOA policy, and failure to remove can result in fines and legal action." Reading that letter, my wife felt horrible. She loves Christmas, and I couldn't believe it. The owner of the condo had also left a copy of the HOA regulations, so I did some reading and I find a nice little loophole. Apparently, they could regulate the lights on the exterior balcony and grilling area, but not the lights inside the condo. So I thought, game on. I surprised my sad wife and I took her immediately to the big box hardware store. And I picked up 2 fake Christmas trees, about 2,000 colored lights, a light ball, and whatever holiday decoration I could find. Our condo again had 3 windows and the sliding glass door. I filled up each one of those windows with lights crisscrossing the window, and one had the LED ball hanging in the center. The sliding door had the 2 Christmas trees in full view, completely covered in lights and ornaments. Also, the sliding doors were full of Christmas lights. My electricity bill must have tripled, but it was well worth it. When you came into the parking lot of the condo complex, you saw a beacon of light full of Christmas spirit. In fact, you could probably see the condo from orbit, and nothing could be said by the HOA Karen. Apparently, at the next board meeting, a proposed rule change was brought up to limit the amount of holiday lighting that was allowed to be shown through the windows. It was quietly pointed out by another HOA board member that was an attorney that you couldn't regulate activities inside a person's dwelling. I moved out before the next year, but I never received another notice. Jeez Louise, what a Grinch of an HOA that is. Yet another reason to despise them. And I just love OP's attitude with this one, and what a win-win situation. Like, not only did he make his Christmas-loving wife happy, but he defeated a nasty HOA, and there wasn't a damn thing they could do about it. If that were me though, guys, I'd probably try to get petty and try to argue that I'm atheist and the lights are Thanksgiving lights. Thank you very much, Karen. But hey, that increased power bill was probably worth every penny. And while we're on the topic of power bills, listen to this next post, guys. So this happened years and years ago when I was a student at college. Me and my friends rented a house and we had to manage utilities, which is normally not a problem. But one time, it's Christmas. We're all heading out home one by one to be with our families. But I've got a minor problem. The utility bill hasn't shown up yet. I delay my departure as long as possible, but it's nowhere to be seen. Eventually, I can't wait any longer. I lock the place up and head out. It's a college town, I think to myself as I leave. And it's Christmas, they'll figure it out. A week later, I get this automated phone call telling me that my bill's now overdue, and unless I pay now via phone, I'll be charged a large fee. So I think to myself, crap, knowing that they also charge a convenience fee for paying over the phone. But that's only $5, it's better than a late fee. So I call the utility provider. I get an automated machine saying, the office is currently closed until X date on account of Christmas season. Please call back after this date. I thought to myself, no problem, they'll probably understand that I couldn't pay and the bill wasn't sent out early enough, so I enjoy my Christmas. When I get back, however, a new bill arrives within a few days, detailing the missed bill and the $75 or so late fee. Once they're open again, I call. I explained the situation, that they didn't send out the bills early enough, and they hadn't arrived until well after everyone had left on break. I also explained that when I tried to pay over the phone, the offices had been closed. The person on the other end says, yep, that sounds about right. I then say, well, can you knock off the late fee? There was no way to avoid it. The person says, no. I say, why not? I couldn't have paid it. It was too late in coming. That's when the person says, we know. I respond, couldn't you have sent the bill earlier? You knew Christmas was coming. The person then replied, of course we did. This happens every year. And it now clicks. I get it. I then say, so you're telling me that you know you've set it up, so you'll hit a ton of college students with late fees because you know you'll be closed after the bills go out. The person responds, yep, and seriously, no shame this individual. And then came the golden moment. The person on the phone says, what are you gonna do about it? We're your only option. Do you want power or not? So yeah, basically, this is a scam to make some extra money off college kids. I say to them, I'll pay it in person. I then collect the money for utilities and called my bank. Now, the office for this place closes at 7 p.m. I stopped off at my bank and then walk into this office at 6:45 p.m. with their money, in quarters, dollar coins, and a few $1 bills. It was a $250 bill plus late fee. Then I just sat there and I made the two employees count it out twice so there weren't any mistakes. It took them until about 7:30 and there was a huge line behind me at that point. Both were glaring massive daggers at me since they clearly wanted to leave. I waited till they were done and closed the bill. I then looked at them and told them, if you guys pull this again, I'll make sure every single payment you receive is in pennies, 10 minutes before closing on the weekend. They never sent a bill late to our place again, and they never assigned another late fee either. Our bills came right on time, early even. Kudos to OP for doing that, and hopefully it got the place to rethink what they were doing. Like, I just want to know who this shady utility company is, because again, the nerve to knowingly do such a thing and to screw over who knows how many people, like, that can't be legal, guys. Like, just reading about the $75 late fee makes me mad. But yeah, I do love the whole pay with pennies thing because that is hella petty. But at the same time, I just can't help but to feel bad for the workers though who had to stay late and count all the money. All because a crappy company was pulling something like that. Shame on them. Several years ago, I worked as a security guard for a large US defense contractor. The guards were company employees, not contractors. The guards protected several offices 24/7, so this meant shift work and weekend work. I worked evenings, 4 p.m. to midnight, from Sunday through Thursday, with Friday and Saturday off. I did some digging on company policy regarding non-standard work weeks, and the policy was confusing, but for me, it worked like this. Since my normal work week wasn't the standard Monday through Friday, the company shifted my workdays to appear like Monday to Friday. My Monday was Sunday, my Tuesday was Monday, etc. Now, this was important on US holiday weeks. Per the policy, on weeks when Monday was a holiday, I got paid holiday pay for my Monday, which was on a Sunday. And here's two additional notes. Number 1. Overtime was paid at 1.5 times normal pay for over 8 hours to 12 hours, and 2 times normal pay for anything over 12 hours. Holiday pay was paid at 1.5 times normal pay on top of that. Number 2. We held our own time cards during the week, and we turned them into the personnel office so supervisors didn't see them until after they were processed. My supervisor did understand the overtime bit, but the guy couldn't wrap his head around the My Monday part. He had it explained, but it didn't sink in. So one holiday week, my supervisor calls me in on Saturday, and he asked me to work a double shift on Sunday. He tells me to come in early, to work the 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift, and then stay for my 4 to 12 shift. I told him that's my Monday and tried to explain the policy, but the guy didn't understand and he dismissed what I was saying. I worked 16 hours on Sunday, my Monday. I then turned my time card in for the week, showing Sunday pay at 8 hours of 1.5 times pay, 4 hours of 2.25 times pay, and 4 hours of 3 times pay. The guy freaked out. He takes me to the HR office, where HR gently told him I was right. He was quiet until we left, but when we were alone, he basically said I scammed him and that he would fire me next time I pulled anything like that. A few months later, the exact same holiday situation came up again. Monday was a federal holiday, and the supervisor called me Saturday, and he asked me to work a double shift on Sunday. He asked, "Hey, can you work the day shift tomorrow? Come in at 8 and work through midnight." I respond and say, "Sure, so you're telling me to work my Monday, right? You know Monday's a federal holiday." The guy responds, "Huh?" So I go on and explain, and I say, Sunday is my Monday, so having me work Sunday would mean I'm working on a federal holiday. Again, the supervisor uncomprehending says, yeah, right, just be there on time. I tell him, no problem. So I worked 16 hours that Sunday. But before turning in my time card for the week, I call the same HR rep who handled our earlier incident. I told her about the supervisor's scheduling, and I said I was concerned. She thanked me, and she said she would be ready. Once again, I turn in my time card for the week. Sunday with 8 hours at 1.5 times pay, 4 hours at 2.25 times pay, and 4 hours at 3 times pay. The next Monday morning, my supervisor calls me, and he rants at me about tricking him, and he fires me over the phone, effective immediately. That's when I called the HR rep and relayed what just happened. She just said to stand by, and she said she would make some calls. At about noon, I get a call from the manager above my supervisor. We had a long, calm talk, and he told me to show up for work as scheduled. No one ever explained things openly, but the rumor was that the supervisor was told that he would be the one who was fired the next time he scheduled somebody for 3 times pay on a holiday. I kept the job another year before leaving for unrelated reasons. The only change was that the supervisor had someone else schedule overtime. He still did my performance appraisals, so no change in performance rating. The holiday overtime incident was never again mentioned. Yeah, I just love how he fired OP for scamming him when it was his fault 100%. Like, dude, you're the one who told me to come in and work, so why are you mad at me when the system auto-logs it as triple time for working a federal holiday? But that aside, you really have to give the supervisor credit for not dinging OP on performance reviews for that. Like, I can see many Karen supervisors who would be tempted to take revenge via a below-par performance rating, but apparently the guy didn't. So let me give you a bit of backstory to this. This also happened over a decade ago. When I was in my last year of university, I, a 21-year-old male, used to work at a huge supermarket franchise. It was a seasonal job, set in the months just before Christmas, and the run-up to Christmas especially was exceptionally cold. Anyways, on to the story. So during the month of November, I start getting sick. It was nothing too strange, just a cough and a runny nose. But come the beginning of December, I was hit hard by the flu. It was so bad that I end up in bed for just over 2 weeks. Something I also have to mention is this store had a policy that you weren't allowed sick leave or holiday leave during the last 2 weeks of December, as these 2 weeks cover both Christmas and New Year. So come the second week of December, and like I said, I got sick. I woke up completely drained of all of my energy. I was coughing, sneezing, and had a high temperature. My parents immediately called the general practitioner and got me an appointment to see him. Usually, they don't give you a doctor's note for the flu, but by the time the doctor had seen me, I was barely conscious and could barely string together a coherent sentence. So he gave me a note, and in a stern voice, he said, "Call your work and tell them you can't work. If they have a problem, give them my number." He then proceeds to give me a card with his number on it. And so, when I got home, I called up my boss and I said, "Hey boss, I won't be able to come in today. I'm not really feeling good." There was a pause for a moment, and in her typical Karen voice, she replies, No, that's not good enough. I have you scheduled to work from 1 p.m. to 12 a.m. and you'd better be here. I have no one to cover you, and if you're not here, I will have to fire you. Now, hearing her say that, I'm stunned for a minute. Well, I'm either stunned or it was the flu, but eventually I reply with, "I've been to the doctor's. He's given me a note and told me to call you. And if you have any questions, he said you can call him." She's audibly annoyed at this and she asked for his number, which I give it to her, and I hear nothing else until I go back in after my 2 weeks off. After my 2 weeks off, I call up work, and I get put through to my boss's boss, and I tell her I'm feeling much better, although I still have a cough that's only set off by extremely cold weather. But other than that, I'm ready to come back to work. She's happy, and she gives me the whole "glad to have you back" speech before giving me my hours. I was scheduled in every single day from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. through New Year and the first week of January. I thank her and get ready for my shift. All's well for the first few days, but on Sunday, just as the store's closing up, my boss Karen comes to me, and she's smiling an evil smile. She had seen me coughing all day, and at some point, she decided I would be given this next job. She looked at me while still smiling, and she said, "Hey, you need to go outside right now and bring in all the merchandise and then collect the carts. You'll have to do this all by yourself. Now this won't be a problem, will it?" She was trying to sound sweet, but I knew this was payback for me calling in sick. I then say, "You know what, I have been coughing all day. If I go out there and move all the heavy stuff, I won't be able to breathe." She then looked at me and the grin faded before she replies with a demanding tone, "No, you will do this. I'm your boss. You follow my orders." I of course tried to fight her, but she wasn't having it. So as I walked to the door, I just grinned and I thought to myself, screw it, time for some malicious compliance. I proceeded outside into the bitter cold, the Sunday evening air, and I start to move everything inside, all by myself. By the time I was done, the store had been closed for 45 minutes. I got inside once I was done and the shutter was down, and I immediately start coughing. It got so bad that the staff that were stocking shelves, the security guard, and my coworkers all stopped what they were doing to rush to me. I just couldn't stop. I felt like my lungs were crackling with each cough. And here's the thing, I milked it hard. I sat on a bench and basically just folded over coughing. Eventually, my boss comes over and she sees me with people around me and she starts shouting, "Hey, get back to work. You've got 3 more hours left. You aren't getting out of it." Another woman's voice chimed in. It was my boss's boss, and she said, "Hey, what the hell is going on?" My coworkers explained what happened as I was still coughing in short bursts, trying to drink some water. Nice boss looks at me and then at my boss, and she says, "Send him home, now. No excuses, he can't work like this." My boss of course tried to argue, but it was pointless. At this moment, my coworker chimes in again, and he said, "Hey, nice boss, so OP's our ride home. If he leaves now, we'll have no way home." Nice boss looked to my boss, and she says, "They go too. I won't have staff left here in this cold with no way home." Nice boss then walked off, and my boss begrudgingly let me and my coworkers go. I just smiled as I wheezily said, "I hope there isn't too much work left to do." I then drove home with my 3 coworkers that were left in my department. I was let go a week later, but seeing the look on my Karen boss's face when her boss made her do all of our work was absolutely priceless. Seriously, don't you just love it when a Karen boss gets a nice dose of instant karma? And I only wish she was reprimanded for knowingly getting petty with OP when she knew they'd be suffering out in the cold. Like, it just sucks that some bosses will do this kind of stuff to their workers, but again, seeing it all backfire on Karen was simply amazing. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/malicious compliance. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitledpeople episode, where psycho Karens won't stop harassing people in airports around Christmas time. It's such a wild episode, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.